All right, everyone, welcome back to The Real South Africa Travel and Tourism. Hey, we have a special guest today, and we want you guys to actually meet her. If you haven't met her before, she's been on the channel before, and now she's back in South Africa, and she's here to purchase some land. She's actually purchased it, so we're really excited, and we want you to meet her. It is the fashion influencer, Tenicka Boyd, so stay with us. Hey everybody, this is Mark Blanton from The Real South Africa, and we have a special guest. But before we go to our special guest, we have
Dr. Latasha Blanton, The Real South Africa
Travel and Tourism. So now we have a special guest. I'm gonna let her introduce herself.
I am Tenicka Boyd. I will soon be a resident of South Africa.
Yes. And actually, the last time she was here, she took over the whole channel. You made me a co-host.
Oh, allegedly.
You did. You made me.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
It was a Tenicka takeover from what I understand.
Yeah.
Welcome to sunny South Africa.
Go for it. I like it. I like it.
This is The Real South Africa. I am your new host, Tenicka Boyd.
And I am the assistant. Yeah.
It was fun. We had a good time.
Yeah, and we're gonna do the same thing again, hopefully. So we're just gonna have some conversation and whatnot. So, you know, I remember when you came 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And we ultimately connected. I think you reached out and you was like, "Where's this South Africa at?"
Where is this South Africa? Yeah.
So tell us the difference between after you came with us and then before that you were coming on your own.
Yeah.
What was the difference?
Yeah, so we started coming to South Africa, my husband and I, like 11, 12 years ago. And we came like many people do as tourists. And we saw what many people see, which is like Cape Town.
Yeah.
That was what we originally saw. And then when we did start coming to the Johannesburg area, it was primarily like Kruger National Park, we've been to Pretoria, but we fell in love with South Africa. Even not having spending like a lot, we hadn't spent a lot of time in Johannesburg, but we still like really loved it.
Yeah.
It was like the energy was so nice, the people. There was something about South Africans also that really reminded me in the best way possible of African Americans. They had this experience, this like tumultuous experience. They were building culture. It was just like, you know, they were like harkening back on their culture. It was just like always a vibe. I always experienced just like great hospitality. But then we were perusing on the YouTube streets, which we love to do, the YouTube streets. And I saw The Real South Africa, and I saw like the places that you all were taking people to. And what stuck out to me was that it wasn't the usual like poverty tour.
Yeah, of course.
Took people on. But it was just showing people just all different sides of South Africa. And it was a side of South Africa that we hadn't seen, having visited for, I think by then, maybe 7 years.
Yeah.
And we still hadn't seen like the South Africa that we see now, which is these beautiful estates, the Mall of Africa, like just so many varied experiences.
Yeah.
And so that's why I reached out, and it's been incredible. Yeah. You showed me a whole new world. A whole new world.
Yeah. And it's funny because we have people that have been here before. I think one of our recent guests who just left, he had been in South Africa before, and then he was cruising on those YouTube streets, and he ran across us, and he was like, "Well, I didn't see that, and I didn't see this." So then he came on a trip with us just recently and was like blown away. He was like, "I never seen any of this, and I came here before. I paid people good money to bring me to South Africa. I came here and I didn't see any of this."
Yeah.
And I think he had a good experience. I think, Tasha, you chatted with him a little bit.
I did. I chatted with him, obviously before, you know, he showed up. But I think the most impressive thing is that he had honestly just gotten back from his tour with another company and saw us and was like, "Where were you guys when I booked this trip?" And immediately, like a month or two after, he had already been back. And he did. And when he came back, he was like, "This is way better than what I had the first time." No disrespect to the first company. But he did say that he had an experience where he was able to see more people that looked like him, able to see people that looked like him doing great, wonderful things, and just to get a level of service that he honestly wasn't expecting from South Africans, and he really felt like he was at home. So it does matter who you travel with. It's honestly how I look at it.
It matters.
100%.
And so, like I said, we was glad to, show you, what we see.
Yeah.
Because some people think, they just meet us on YouTube, on these YouTube streets, as you say, and they think, oh, well, they just got there, or they only been there for a few months, or they trying to show people stuff. And a lot of people don't realize that we've been back and forth for 8 years before we came here. So, and then after that, we've been living here for over 5 years. So we got really full time.
That's right.
Ain't miss nothing. We see everything.
Mm-hmm.
We see people come, we see people go. Trends, the South African trends, now the trends of people wanting to migrate to Africa. I think you've kind of seen that yourself, right?
100%.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
I mean, I am team Africa in general, especially for Black Americans.
Yeah.
I think it's such a diverse continent. I think there are just so many different experiences. I mean, you're talking about 54 countries, territories, you're talking about beach, you're talking about, ocean, you're talking about mountains, you're talking about animals. Literally everything, desert, everything you need, you can find on this continent. Yeah. And I feel like historically Black Americans in general, but Black Americans just have been taught to think that it's such a scary continent, it's so much more dangerous than other continents. And I've just not found that to be the case. It's with its problems,
of course,
like all places. But to judge an entire continent that is the most diverse in the entire world off of what we've been taught is just not the case. Now, however, that's my disclaimer.
Okay.
We have a lot of unlearning to do ourselves as an American, right? Like no matter how woke we feel like we are, no matter how conscious, no matter how educated, there are always aspects and gray areas that we don't know about a place. That's just what it is. And so my personal pet peeve is when people come to the continent, any country, and they're expecting to see America. Yeah. This is not Miami. No. This is not Vegas. Yeah. This is not Cancun. Yeah, that's not what it is.
This ain't Tulum.
This isn't Tulum. And it's no disrespect to those places. Those places are gorgeous in their own right, but they are literally little mini US, and they cater to US like tourism. And a lot of countries, specifically South Africa, I think specifically Kenya and Ghana, even Senegal, like some of the places that a lot of Americans are just starting to venture to. They are starting to experience these waves, and with the wave comes a backlash from Americans because they don't like the infrastructure. They think things are moving too slow. They think all these things. This isn't America. Yeah. It's not America. Yeah. And you don't want it to be. And you don't want to be a gentrifier. You don't want to be a part of this colonizing culture. Yeah. You want to be a part of embracing what is. That's not to say that people who are native to these countries on the continent are not without criticism. But I just feel like as a visitor, especially with Western privilege and access, I'm personally, my opinion, I'm not about to get online and start blasting my soda to 30 minutes. Yeah, it's just like, or I paid $10 for a ticket and the artist came out, an hour late. It's just like, have you ever waited for Lauryn Hill in New Jersey?
I've heard about that.
That's what I'm saying. And but some people, they get their Western privilege and their platforms, and then they blast the continent to an audience that is looking for anything negative to hang on to and say, oh, that's why I don't visit it. And it's just like, I think that's...
So they need to show a little bit more grace.
A lot more grace. Yeah. A lot more grace. I mean, a lot of the countries we're visiting are developing countries. And I don't necessarily like to use that word because I feel like it can be disparaging. Yeah. But I think in the intellectual context, the academic context, it is you can experience very super overdevelopment almost. Yeah. You can experience almost all the comforts of home. And then there are aspects of it that are still growing, 100%. Right? And so what does it mean to have grace for a country that isn't the most economically stable country in the world like America is allegedly supposed to be?
Yeah,
I like the word allegedly.
But we're finding out.
I mean,
it's being exposed.
Infrastructure, yes, every day. We have infrastructure challenges in the U.S., but people take, it's like par for the course. Yeah. right? Like when I'm talking to people on the continent, they're just like, or even in Europe, right? They're like, so you draw the line at it taking an hour for your meal to come out, but what about the police? What about you can't go into like mega stores and grocery stores without fear of being shot up? Because we have an issue with police violence. It's like, not to get political or just not police violence. Well, we do have an issue with police violence, but gun violence. It's like, not to get political, but like, we as Americans, we really don't have as much room as we think to talk about other countries' infrastructure.
And you know what's Tenicka? It is so.
It's like we're sending our kids to K through 12 schools, and they have active shooter drills, and we're concerned because there's a pothole in the street. Like, have you never lived in Harlem? It's potholes, and I live in Harlem, so I'm saying that as a person who experiences it. But it's like, we come to other countries, especially on this continent, and we become so hypercritical. And I think we need to be led by what people who live here, their ideas, their political solutions, and not try to come and impose. Like, how are we supporting?
Yeah, we do get that from time to time, and sometimes I have to I have a conversation with them, letting them know, like you said, this isn't America. There are a lot of things that are better here, and especially in South Africa, that's better than what they find in their hometowns. They find more peace here in South Africa than they do in their hometowns, the places that they grew up, and they know everyone. They find it here. And a lot of times they are surprised because it takes a moment for them to just kind of let that go. It might take them, a day or so, maybe 2 days, to realize that they're not in America, and then they realize they're in South Africa, and then they're almost like, why do I feel like this? Why do I feel so good? Why am I smiling? You know, ... And those are some of the things that, because we brought probably 1,000 people now or more as tourists here to South Africa. So we've seen from one side to the other, as far as people who are super gracious to those that are walking through the door with their complaint list, like they're coming to complain about South Africa. Or they're coming. This is my complaint list. Well, I think.
What are some of the things they're saying?
Oh my God! First of all, let's use. I'm just going to keep it short because it could be many reasons why this is happening. But let's talk about load shedding. You know, we get a lot of people saying, "Well, they got load shedding," and I be thinking, or they might call them rolling blackouts. First of all, they're all scheduled, so they can continue to repair the electric grid. You know, that's a discussion in itself. But as I watch TV, because US TV, we watch mostly US TV, they're constantly talking about the grid, their own power grid. Like,
New York City, it's like that all the time, especially don't let it rain. Don't let it rain and forget about it.
And so you don't get to control that in New York, or even, like I said, in the Midwest, when it's 100 and something degrees Fahrenheit and the power's going out. They don't talk about it. But here they actually, so you get an app and they schedule it. You will be off from 10 to 2. One of the benefits of it is not say forcing, but it's encouraging people to say, okay, let me get alternative solutions. Solar, backup power. So a lot of people are even going off the grid, which is actually, helping. It
can be more affordable in the long run. 100%.
Yeah, and it actually is. And the funny part about it is, it's cheaper here for that same power system, because I have one here in this house, and I've been watching. And I'd be honest with you, it costs 5 times more in the U.S. to get the exact same system that I have here.
Really?
So we're not concerned with the power simply because we decided to go that route. But that's something that's afforded to South Africa and probably Africa itself, versus in the US they would charge you 5 times more to have that same system and try to regulate you into the ground about keeping it. So it's just a different way of doing things. But I do appreciate the fact that, like I said, that one video that went viral, which made complete sense, about you saying that we need to come to Africa and show some grace when we come to South Africa, or Africa in general, because I don't just advocate for South Africa. Even though I'm here, we do tours and travel here to South Africa. I think most of us need to spend some time in Africa.
Yeah, I mean, even from a even if it's just a vanity perspective, meaning like a lot of Black Americans, we have an ancestral, you know, connection. A lot of times it's a spiritual experience. A lot of time, like, we are having an experience because it's something that has felt very denied. And so you feel like you're going through a range of emotions. But even for people who don't feel that, I don't know how they can feel that, they must be dead or something. But for people who don't feel that, even from a vanity perspective, like, I want to experience a new vacation place, you should definitely put like this continent on your list, and South Africa in general. It literally has everything. And so I just don't understand why you are skipping over an entire continent out of fear of what people have said or what you've learned, which is so antiquated.
Now, you've traveled to other places outside of the continent, but a lot of places inside the continent. And you've chosen South Africa is where you're going to build your home. When it comes to other places that you've traveled, not to compare, but like, what are your experiences in other countries compared to your experience here in South Africa?
I think South Africa has a saying that you can experience like the whole world in one country, and that's literally my experience. If I want to go to the beach, if I want to go to safari, if I want to go like to downtown full of like buildings, it's literally all here. It's just a country that has captivated me. It's a country that I'm just in love with. I'm in love with the potential. There are times where it's frustrating just looking at the politics because I know what they have, right? And they're about to be 30 years out of apartheid. And I have dreams and hopes and aspirations for the country as well, but it's just, I mean, it's just one of the best countries I've ever been to in my life, literally. And I've been to over 60 countries, and I feel like I can say that. I mean, there are aspects, right, like I like to spend part of my summer in France. I really love it, it's great. I don't want to be there when it snows. I don't want to be there when they're having racial issues and people who look like me are the target. Like, I'm not, right? Like, there are aspects of many countries that I love. And all of the aspects of those countries that I love exist in South Africa.
Good answer.
I think you hit it right on the head. Obviously, it's that New Yorker in you, because you're used to being around a lot of people, different people, and you come here and you can find the same thing. So, you know, and I do agree with you. I think, you know, I've traveled a lot of countries as well. I've done a lot before I got here, and this was the one that captivated me the most. I mean, I could have lived in Europe. I mean, I could have easily just said, and it would have been easier to move to Europe. But I'm like, no, let me go through the pains or troubles of coming to South Africa, the ridiculing from friends and family. That was like, why you keep going to Africa? Do people ask you why you keep going to Africa?
Not my close friends, because they I think they're used to it. But I think people on my online friends or people who are like, you know, they're just generally curious. I'm always shocked. I know we live in a bubble because we experience the continent, because we've traveled, and you still can't believe that there are people like in their 30s, 40s, 50s who don't even have a passport.
100%.
Even though Google is free in the US for the most part. I mean, right? Like, the internet can be costly. But like, you could literally Google, you know, Accra and see what it looks like on Google. You can see that there are buildings and streets and roads and parties, and you can look up the crime rate. Like, you don't have to actually live in the dark. And people, like, they live in the dark about these situations, and then they like they project and they ask you questions like, aren't you afraid? Now, with South Africa, I think it's a bit different because of the way that South Africa gathers their like crime statistics. It appears to be like much more criminal activity than there is. And I know the average South African, I know we're living a privileged experience behind some gates at some point, but like, so the average South African, well, I can't speak for the average South African, but I know it's just like in the United States. Oftentimes when people are their lived experience, they might be living in a lower income community, a crime-ridden community, they're gonna have a much, much different experience. But it annoys me when somebody is like living, you know, in a crime-ridden community in America and they're concerned about me going to South Africa. And I'm just like, excuse me?
No, I'm glad you said that.
Excuse me?
I'm so glad you said that.
Like what?
No,
Yeah. Because here in South Africa, I know America very well, extremely well. I spent 40-something years there. I spent many years here. There's levels to this thing here in South Africa. And the average American, and let's be honest, the average American middle class could do very well here in South Africa.
Yeah, 100%. That's
Easily.
without a doubt.
I'm talking about whatever level you think you are, you can multiply that by several numbers just by starting to visit. Because I noticed you said that you came here for years.
Yeah.
And I've came here for years, so we do have that in common. That's probably why we're actually sitting here, because we didn't just show up tomorrow and just say, okay, now I'm going to set up my whole shop like the way I do in America. You got an understanding of Africa and South Africa before you even couldn't even talk the way that you're talking.
Yeah.
And I had to get an understanding, and I do have a good understanding of South Africa. Do I have a perfect example? No.
Right.
But I have my example, and I think it carries me pretty far to that point. So I tell people all the time, you have to do like what you're doing today and visit.
Yeah.
You have to spend that time. You got to come and touch the people, drink the water, eat the food, do all this stuff. And then whenever you're ready to make that transition, it's just so much easier.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So because you've been coming back and forth for all these years, it makes sense to us that you decided just now. It wasn't like on your first visit you're like, hey, I want to move, or even before your first visit you're like, hey, I think I would want to live in South Africa. It took a while to get to that point. So talk to the people about the process of saying, after all your visits, that this is where you've chosen.
I mean, I think like Arthur and Jackie, when they came and they were like, Jackie was telling me that she was like crying. She didn't believe.
Oh, I remember, because he came through us.
She was definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember the very first time, like, feeling that experience. It wasn't the first time I'd been, but I remember feeling like that. There is something about it that feels very much like home. And I felt like it was a place that I could live. It just didn't make sense in my mind, like logistically, right? It's just like where I'm gonna work, what I'm gonna do. I'm not independently wealthy, I'm not generationally wealthy. Like, how does this work? And so I think once you cross that hurdle of like, oh, there are aspects of this that can work, and it's not a zero-sum game. For us, like, we're very much still in our working years. And because I know my husband's watching this, and he's like, I'm very much working. And he very much, he loves his job, he's very much working. I think for us, it was about, the market made so much more sense here, right? You can't even get a toilet in New York City for what it costs to even buy land here. And so I think that the US dollar to rand worked in our favor.
Sure.
And it was just about like, we can start sowing the seeds, buy the land, we have the land, build the home. What does it look like if we're coming here 6 or 7 times a year, that we're coming to a house, that that we have our stuff in, that we love. What does that look like over 5 years? Then what does that look like over 10 years? And then what does it mean to retire early, maybe at 50? My husband thinks he's gonna work forever, but or what does a second iteration of work look like? I think specifically for him, I'm already in my second iteration.
Amen.
But like, what does the second iteration of work look like for him? And maybe that's for him, that's 50, maybe that's 55. But like, we have sown our seed, the seeds here. And I think that was the issue for us. It was like, how are we gonna make this work for us as people who, I'm in my 30s. Like, what is that? Like, if I stop working, it ain't no money. It's like, what does that look like? And I think once we figured that out, then the rest made sense, because it was accessible for us. It was affordable for us. There are a couple of logistics that we'll have to figure out over time, like the temporary residency and like permanent residency and all of those like kind of things. But for now, I think it's amazing. That's incredible.
No, and I appreciate that simply because in part of your plan, you understand it's not a flash to bang type of situation.
That's right.
It is a process.
It's a process.
And I think that when we talk to people about their process, that it needs to be a process. It needs to not be something that you want to do in 6 months, because it's not that kind of party at all. South Africa has their own processes, their own way of doing things. If you have not visited enough time to know how things work, you are going to be that person that sits on YouTube and starts bashing the country because you don't have a proper understanding. And I think that's where the misunderstanding comes for the people that do have negative reactions, is because they're not educated on how things actually work before they get there, or even in their coming and going. It needs to be, how can I gain more understanding as I continue to visit? Because you have to learn every time that you're here. I know that every time you come, you experience different things, but at the same time, in that experience, you're like, what is my takeaway while I'm here? You're not here just like your takeaway this time was, you need to understand how building works. What does it mean to grab an architect? What does it mean to look at home furnishings? That's your takeaway this time. So I appreciate you understanding that it's not a flash to bang situation, that needs to be understood for everybody else that's watching this video.
I mean, there are times I wish it was flash to bang.
But that's our American.
That's the American is coming out. Right?
Yeah, we felt the same way. We felt that. Trust
that.
me. We were sitting there in 2013.
Yes.
In Cape Town, living on a flat that was literally on First Beach. The South Africans know, in Clifton. I mean, it doesn't get any more hoity-toityer than that. It just doesn't. And we're watching the waves come in, and it's October and November, which is summer here. It's beautiful. People on the beach, to include the guy who kept showing up. He's kind of nude.
He was completely naked.
He shows up every day. But that's
and he laid out like,
you sure he's not from New York? That is some Harlem.
We'll be sitting there drinking our coffee. Yeah, there he comes.
There he comes.
Yeah, there he is, laying by that rock again. But that's what he did every day. But we sat there, and we was like, man,
what if
we need to figure out a plan to get here. So like kind of where you guys are now, we were there back in 2013, and it took us 5 years to formalize everything because we had too many commitments in the U.S. and whatnot. But in the meanwhile, we kept coming back.
Oh my God.
And so when it was time, so people always ask us, well, what about that transition? Like, what was that like? I'm
5 years?
It was literally when we finally came here in 2018. It was normal.
Yeah, but also you have to embrace the transition.
Right.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that people don't understand. Also, that South Africa is situated, and the way work is situated for a lot of people, not everyone obviously, where you can work from anywhere. Like, you know, it can be accessible, especially if you're in Atlanta. You can go to sleep, you eat 2 meals and you're here. Like even from New York, that United flight out of Newark, right? Like there are all kind of possibilities. You just have to reimagine what's possible. I think one of the challenges though is like, people heard about some home building process in Tanzania or something. It's like, no shade to Tanzania. I love Tanzania, by the way. Wonderful country. But like, insert imaginary African country. And they're like, my grandmother's sister told her that somebody gave $10,000 and they ran off with their money. And it's like, every country is different. That's first of all. Like, people literally need to understand that. That's like somebody telling you about something that happened in Honduras and you live in the United States. Like, people don't understand, like, that is the equivalent. There are people in South Africa who have never been to insert whatever country your grandma's auntie told you about. So they don't know. But what people also don't understand about South Africa specifically is the infrastructure here, especially when you talk about some of these like developments outside of Johannesburg towards Pretoria, which is where we are. Like, they're so used to doing this. They are so used to creating these transactions. They almost walk you through the entire process. There is no way that I could build a house here and be in America without having like all the people that I have
resources.
Like available to support me in this process. And I think people think you just like walking out, you standing on a piece of land, you see the land,
you put a flag on it.
You put a flag on it. You paid somebody $5,000 and then you come back and somebody built a house on your land and now you're in court. Yeah. That does happen in some countries, but that's not happening here. That's not what we're experiencing.
Because I think you obviously, you know, we assisted you with lining the people up and proper people, and people don't realize when, like for example, when you're not here, I'm constantly, vetting these people, talking to these people, making sure that they do all the proper things, like for our real estate tour. You know, the facts are, like, most of the time when people see Americans coming, they like jacking up prices and things like that. Well, part of my tour, I'm like, that's not, whatever the list price is, that's what it's going to be. Right. And the builders and the people and the top people in the real estate game that we work with, they're like, oh no, don't worry about it. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen and whatnot. So we do a lot of due diligence to make sure everything works. So when you come here, now you're telling me that, oh, hold on, Mark, I just got my I guess you got your land registered today.
Yeah, the deed.
The deed. The deed is in your name.
I'm a landowner. Yeah, we have the land. We finally have the deed, honey, with all the, I won't say back and forth. It really wasn't that bad. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
I shouldn't make it.
It's part of the process.
We had to find the right
it's part of the process.
And it's a process to protect you as well.
Yeah, so it's a process to protect
you. So don't look at it like,
That's
oh my
right.
God, it was so much X, Y, and Z. Yeah. But because of who you're working with, and because we stay on them to the point of like, don't jack my people around and make them squared away. They do that to protect you. So I understand. It can be a little bit like, oh my God, my American wants this done right now. But it is part of the process to make sure that you're good to go, and you have that deed because you suffered. You suffered. No, I'm just kidding.
It all works out in the end, right? It all works out in the end. But I think to your point, like at the heart of your point is like, people need to understand that this is not America. Things are not going to work out the way that it does in America. But that doesn't make it terribly difficult. Mm-hmm. No. And it's a beautiful process if you embrace it. Yeah. Right? Like, it's a beautiful process.
Because the end goal is that you're going to get exactly what you want. Yeah. You're going to get exactly what you paid for.
Now, it's a million decisions. Now, that's
you've been at this for a while. Like,
I know, but you know what? Some people think it's like a subdivision where you how the subdivision is like a makeshift house. And you just go in and pick the finishing touches. No. They don't realize that you're making 200 different decisions just in the living room.
Yeah. It's just like faucets, finishing, tile, wallpaper.
And they're not giving you 2 different wallpapers.
No, it's like, hey.
No.
They're giving you 1,000 wallpapers. And then it's like, you have to figure out that. I mean, I'm just, in my mind, I was trying to explain to my husband last night, like, the double, what y'all have?
Yeah.
The double glass
door
entry.
Yeah.
And he's just like,
what is that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Because at like a certain point, it's just like, okay. like, okay. I don't want to hold up the process thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I think people don't realize how much it is. It can be a credit process. Mm-hmm. I do know that it can be, but I think the interest rate is higher for Americans, isn't it?
Yeah, the interest rate is higher in South Africa in general than it is in the U.S., but you're not working in the U.S. market, meaning that, like, for example, $1 is $1 in the U.S.
Right.
But $1 here is today $18.5.
Yeah.
I mean rands, South African rand. Right. So you got to kind of do that math as well. So there's some. I know we did a real estate tour. I can't remember what the exchange, what the rate was at the time, but let's say it's 10%, and in the U.S. it's 6%. They're like, well, I want 6%. Yeah. But when you start taking that 10% and then you start adding, simply because you're buying in American or U.S. dollars, that it actually goes way down because your dollar has big buying power.
Yeah.
And so it really ultimately works out in the end.
But I mean, I do suggest people, if they can, like us, to do a cash purchase.
Yeah.
Like, especially, right, you're paying as you go, like 25% of the process. And then you see, I actually appreciate the system.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate it. So
and it's real. It's a real system.
It's a real system.
And lawyers involved and everything. Yeah. So, we've navigated it, obviously, before. And then we've helped many other people navigate it as well. And then now you're navigating it, just another success story. But let me ask you this: so you've been here for a while, you've You've been here many times. So what should people expect on their first time coming through O.R. Tambo International Airport?
Oh, I mean,
what should they expect?
But also, that's the best part. You know, it's like the best part. I think seeing people. I think everyone will love South Africa in general. That's the disclaimer.
Yeah.
You know, everyone will love South Africa. There's something for everyone. They have the infrastructure to accommodate people from all over the world, no matter your racial, ethnic background. It is an English-speaking country, so if you have English as even one of the languages you speak, you will be fine.
Yeah.
And they're super accommodating, even around languages. These people, you know, oftentimes in South Africa are speaking 8, 9, 10 languages.
Yeah, they move it around.
Yeah, and so they're so lingual and they're so accommodating that way. But I think as a Black American specifically, if I can speak on that experience, I always say it is just such a ground-shifting, spiritual, emotional experience. I mean, because you're just, while you are expecting it to be great, in the back of your mind you're thinking, oh, it's dangerous, let me be careful, let me do this. But the people are so accommodating. They're so nice. You can be in downtown Johannesburg experiencing like smorgasbord, you know, you can go to the neighborhoods market, you can experience like this beautiful urban oasis, incredible fashion with all like the students. And then the very next day you can be like whisked off to the safari, you can see the Big Five, you have the lions, the elephants.
You got luxury lifestyle.
And even if you're...
Eat some great food.
Oh, incredible food.
Yeah.
The food is incredible. I mean, they take barbecue. We love barbecue, like Black Americans.
Yeah.
They really love barbecue.
Yeah.
They love barbecue.
Yeah.
But even if you're not like an outdoorsy person, I tell people, because I was definitely not an outdoorsy person. My very first safari was here in South Africa. And I was just like, how is this different from the zoo?
How dare you?
I did.
Oh my Lord.
I did say that, but I mean, you see that first animal in the wild,
They do something to you.
and you're like, this is not the zoo.
It is not.
This is
different. Yeah.
First of all, you see the elephant and you think it's an adult elephant, and then you find out it's a baby elephant, and then you turn around, there's 14 more elephants.
100%.
And it's like, oh, you can never see that at the zoo.
No.
And they're healthy, and they're big, and they're strong, and they're incredible, and it's jaw dropping. But then you can like get all the comforts of home. You can go to the Mall of Africa, you can be at Zara, you can be at Gucci, you can stand in the Louis Vuitton store if that's your flavor.
Yeah.
You know, you can go get your Fenty Beauty.
Since you are fashion.
I am a fashion girl.
Yeah.
You know, you can get all of the things that you need. You know, people ask even the most mundane questions like, oh, can you get a flat iron? They like, yes, I do.
All these Black women.
All right, what's funny is I actually got a flat iron here. I was able to answer it. So I actually did get a flat iron while I was here one time. So I was like, oh, I actually know where you can buy a flat iron. But it's like, you know, all the comforts of, especially if you're an American, you have all of those comforts while also experiencing things that are just like vastly unique, vastly special.
Yeah.
It's so much history here. It is home of arguably one of the strongest Black resistance in the world. So you can go to Soweto, you can like see where Nelson Mandela lived. You know, you get all of that history. It's so rich, it's so palatable. And then you can go to Cape Town, you got the beach, you got the mountain views, you got all the luxury. I mean, you can definitely experience incredible luxury here in Johannesburg.
Extreme luxury.
Extreme luxury. Tea at Saxon.
Oh yeah, what we do.
No, isn't that lovely? 5 Four Seasons.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally everything that you can experience.
But people think that those things are out there, they're out of their reach, and they actually are not.
What do you
out
mean,
of
like from a price perspective?
From a price perspective.
No, it's like really like. I mean, sure, if you're coming to South Africa with $2 US, it's gonna be out of reach.
Right.
Right, like you're gonna run out of money in Bali if you only have $2 US, right? Like it doesn't matter where you are in the world, but if you are, you know, if you're just a working American with like a working class background, middle class background, you definitely, like when we were coming to South Africa 12 years ago, like no, we were on a shoestring budget from time to time. You know, we were in a little 3-seater snugged up 14-hour flight in economy with a baby on us, like saying God knows where. I mean, she felt like a baby then, but she wasn't.
She was like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I mean, she'll be traveling forever, but it feels like, right, like compared to a 16.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I come to South Africa when I was in a different economic class.
Okay.
I would say that.
I mean, you have to come up.
Yeah, I mean, you can, but also, hey, if you are where you are, you shouldn't think that South Africa is out of reach.
It's not, and that's where we come in, because we want people to experience what we experience. There was a time you didn't experience what we experienced until we finally met.
That's right.
And then you're like,
especially out here.
Yeah, and now you're like,
nobody takes you out here.
No, now you're talking Four Seasons. Now you're talking Saxon. Now you're talking, yeah. And this is what this is what we experience. So that's why a lot of our guests, when they come, they still, even though we send them all the electronic brochures, we send them everything they need to know, they still get here and are like floored. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. This is in Africa. And and then they get to access it. They're like, I'm just an IT guy in wherever I do. But now I couldn't access those levels in America. Like I couldn't go to Vegas and go to the top tier.
Yeah.
And then they come here and they're like, but I'm at the top tier.
We're close to it at least.
Yeah, and I'm in Africa. And none of this makes any sense because my friends are telling me to be safe.
Yeah.
You know, are you okay? I haven't.
I'm just like, you need to take some extra nail.
Yeah.
What we do?
Are you safe?
What
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah.
I'm concerned about your safety.
All day long.
And in your pocketbook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanicka, we had a young lady who came here, and I just happened to know her. I knew this one lady. She used to work with us when we had our physical therapy clinics, and she was one of our recruiters. And her sister came here. I didn't know her sister came here. Had nothing to do with us. And her sister, I guess, you know, a grown woman, obviously, was what was she doing? She was just doing her thing, I assume.
It was during COVID, though.
Yeah, during COVID. So then I get this call from this woman that I used to work with her in a panic. Mark, I know you in South Africa. My sister's there. We haven't heard from her. Nobody knew she was there.
She living a dream.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the whole time we're talking.
On do not discern.
Yes, and so she was upset. She was like, "Mark, you need to find her. You need, because we don't know where she is." And I kept saying, "She's fine. She's probably doing exactly what you just said."
Yep.
She came here and was like, "I ain't got time for that America. Y'all should have came." So.
Listen.
I know people who come here and get married.
I know people that come
I know
here.
people
Yeah, we know people.
Listen, I know people that come here and when it's time for them to leave,
They
don't
don't
get in
leave.
their car.
Yeah,
leave.
you know what it is too? I know people come here and people, you know, in the States, because we're taught, oh, people are after your passport or
sure,
whatever.
yeah.
Right.
And it's just like, no, they moved in with the boot.
Yeah.
Yes, they
It's happening.
They want the South African citizenship.
I had a family member that did that.
Really?
Yes. He lives in
He lives
KZN.
in KZN right now. He is married to a South African. He came here 2
And he
times.
didn't leave.
No, I mean he's got his paperwork, but
No, I mean,
yeah, but he came here
Yeah.
one time.
He wanted me to do his Lobola
Yeah,
ceremony.
he was saying,
I'm like, I'm not South African.
yeah, so like you can't do that. But he came here. His second time here, he met a girl. Next thing I know, he's like, I'm on my way back. He came back. Next time I know, he's like, I'm moving, and we got married. I didn't even go to the wedding because
that's how fast it was
Yeah.
going.
But it took 18 months. He was here
Yeah.
and married, and
He's from New York, by the way.
yeah, he's
I
from
need
New
to
York.
bring my sister, you know. She's on the market.
Don't be putting this out there like that.
Listen, hey, it might work out.
But it's happening. I don't want to get too deep into it.
And he's not a passport, bro. I'm just
Yeah, I said
saying.
he had to
No,
say
amen.
I'm
one.
just saying.
Yeah.
He just came here.
He
and
just
found
he
out.
literally came.
And just found
He came
out.
with, actually, we didn't even know he was here. He came with another tour group, unfortunately. He had more fun with us just for those couple of days that we talked to him.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm coming back. And then next thing you know, but a lot of our people, I think there's one other brother who, I can't remember, he's been here recently and he's coming back because he met someone.
Yeah.
And so these things do happen because South Africa is home. You feel like you're at home.
You feel it.
You feel like you jumped on a plane, left home to come home.
Yeah.
And then you start meeting people, and people are so open. They're so like you
So
said,
friendly.
Yeah, you said accommodating, but they are really
Friendly.
friendly
And
people.
social. They're social.
Yep.
Very social.
They will invite you to
Even
everything.
around here.
Yeah.
No, yeah. After a certain hour, you can see the life actually happening. And I always tell people, because they ask us questions like, "How come Americans work so many jobs? Like, do you not have time for your family? What about your friends?" But here in South Africa, they not. And then people will be like, "Why do things close early?" Because they have families and they have friends. They want to spend time with those people.
Yeah.
So we are the ones that are off because we don't spend time with our family. We work until 7, 8 o'clock at night, and sometimes going to a second job, or we got somebody else raising our kids while we're at work. They actually enjoy their family. Yeah, they may have a helper raising their kids, but they get to enjoy their kids because they're not stressed from work. They spend time with their friends, and on the weekends you can actually see that happening. Our weekends, what do we do?
Sleep. We're
trying to recover.
Yeah, we're trying to recover. Yeah, it's a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle change. It literally is a lifestyle change.
Yeah, because people sometimes they will because obviously we're here. We got people on the East Coast, West Coast calling us and sending us messages, and then it's the weekend, and they just think, they honestly believe that we're supposed to be answering emails on the weekend. Now, if we was in America and we're used to that whole American grind, but we've been here so long now, we have adapted to the South African vibe across the board. Weekends is for you, it's for to do your thing and whatnot. It's not to be, okay, let's catch up on work. Let's do this, let's do that. Let's go sit at a nice restaurant. Let's go to a nice venue. Let's go to the bush. Go spend a day somewhere. Just doing stuff, something for yourself, which generally we don't do. But I can say, like you just said, it's a complete lifestyle.
It's a complete lifestyle change.
Yeah, but you have to start. And so I think I'm going to say it again. It's probably for the last time. Until next time, you have to come on a visit, and you have to see it yourself. You cannot experience what we are experiencing just staying on the internet and going on YouTube and asking questions, and then getting the news and just only taking all the oh, they got load shedding, or they got this, and don't realize that most South Africans aren't concerned with load shedding, but the people that are not here are concerned with load shedding.
When they should really be concerned about what's happening in their own backyard.
Because
chances are what's happening in your own backyard is a whole lot worse than load shedding. So travel and tourism is what we do. And we do that by having an introduction to South Africa. You cannot experience all the levels of South Africa in 6 days, 10 days, 13 days, 30, 60, 90. But if you build a relationship with South Africa, start coming multiple times like we have, you'll actually see the fruits of your labor. So just understand that that's what we're here for. We're here to introduce you to South Africa, help you come multiple times if you need to, have you have a proper experience, to show you things on your second and third visit that you may not see your first visit, because even though we live here, we still experience new things every day, and those are things that we don't take for granted, because we understand that living here is an actual privilege.
Cool. I love that.
But you know what's funny? We're so glad that Tenicka came, and we're so glad that she trusted us with showing you, hey, this is what we know. and
life-changing, changed my life. Changed my life. I mean that. I mean that in a serious way. I mean, that's a serious way. We would have forever probably visited the same places. We would have never known this place exists. When you say, oh, what can I describe that feeling of walking out of the airport? That's one feeling, but also walking into this estate, right? It's an entirely different feeling. And it also continues to feel like home. So I know I say it, but I can never say thank you to both of you enough. Because it literally changed my life. It really did. You're welcome.
Well, now we're going to be neighbors, so.
Y'all are my neighbors. You are my neighbors. Just because I don't have a roof and a structure like fully built doesn't mean
we're not neighbors.
It's coming.
Yes,
we
are neighbors.
So is there anything you want to leave the people?
Oh, I mean, I'll just echo what you all said. Come see her for yourself. Come see South Africa for yourself. I guarantee you, even people who don't want to move here, like, you will find something about this country that you absolutely love. You will. It is here.
Excellent.
I will leave it there, people, good people. So just go to our website. Well, matter of fact, before we leave, tell them exactly who you are, what you do, and how they can find you.
So I create fashion content on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. You can follow me at Tenicka B. That's TenickaB. On all platforms.
And she's proper. And so you can go ahead and say hello to Whitney right now.
Hi, Whitney.
She's gonna have a fit. Oh my God.
Hi, Whitney.
She's gonna die.
Yeah, that's my niece. She follows her as well.
Listen, she loves you.
Now she does a good proper job and whatnot. That's why I was like, make sure that you mention it. we were sitting here watching some of her content, and Tasha's trying to run into the store to buy this content.
I was like,
buy these outfits.
Well, not 100% true, but I was like,
well, never 100%.
I asked myself questions like, why don't I have that? Why don't I have that? And I'm like, I need to buy this.
Yeah.
And so, so thank you for at least keeping me to remember. And I asked myself, like, why don't I have that? I actually totally have that. So thank you for making me think of why I don't have certain things. I appreciate that. Yes, influence.
All right, guys, we hope to see you guys here in sunny South Africa. Woo! To the real South Africa. Come on inside, find out exactly who we are, what we do, and how we are changing things in the tourism space here in South Africa. We're bringing a luxury experience, so check us out. And of course, we're going to tell you everything about us. The Real South Africa is a travel and tourism company. Our overarching focus is to bring to the African diaspora what South Africa has to offer in the realms of tourism.
My husband, named the company, and it made sense simply because of what we're shown in the media when it comes to South Africa. We're never shown, how beautiful the people are, how beautiful the architecture, the fashion, the food. So for us, when we got to experience how people actually have real lifestyles and they love their families and they socialize, like that was more real to us than anything that we had ever been shown, as far as the media is concerned on that side. What we were taught.
As a proper travel and tourism company based here in South Africa, we wanted to bring to our audience there in the diaspora the opportunity to have a great time in South Africa on a 5-star level. As you see, we like to bring our people the best what's available here in South Africa, offering up nothing but 4- and 5-star events here in the country. I think they have never ever heard of what's happening here in South Africa because of the surprise responses that we get when people are booking their trips here to South Africa, not knowing that this stuff even existed. So we will do what we can. We bring the best, and of course our travelers love what we do, and they always leave South Africa with a smile. So this is amazing for us. We have amazing offerings all throughout the country. We feature Cape Town a lot because of the breathtaking views. We also like to show everybody Johannesburg because of all the opportunities that exist and that the diaspora is looking for in reference to business and being able to, be in an upmarket area. And then of course, a lot of our people love to be near the beach. And of course, Durban is good for that because of the weather and it's tropic. And that really matters to us in the diaspora. So all I can say to you is welcome to the real South Africa. Enjoy.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. If you like what you saw, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notifications button so you don't miss out on all things The Real South Africa. Thanks again.